Hey soldiers, there is a country out there criminalizing cash. This country is one of the Western democracies, a bastion of so-called freedom. Then we have another country that has started 80% of the wars since World War II, and they look like they're trying to start another one. Now, what does this mean for your money? Well, one thing it means is we need to start redefining wealth. We've talked about that before. Why do we need to redefine wealth? Because if you continue to define it in the way that it has been, you expose yourself to authoritarianism, okay? The powers that be understand how wealth is defined now. So look, let's get in on the redefinition game. Redefinition is all the rage. It's not what you think it is. It's what I say it is. So let us engage in some redefinition for our benefit. Let's redefine wealth.
I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude. What? You dudes don't know what dude he is.
Okay, let's jump right into it. The country banning, criminalizing the use of cash is Israel. Starting Monday, August 1st, 2022, it will be a criminal offense in Israel to pay more than the equivalent of $1,700 in cash to a business or $4,360 in cash to an individual as the government intensifies its ongoing war against tangible money. It's a war that began in earnest with the 2018 passage of the law for the reduction of the use of cash. Israeli businesses and individuals began facing limits on cash transactions in January 2019. However, on August 1st of 2022, those limits are being slashed nearly in half. So what Israel, they're turning up the pot of water gradually, okay? And they are rolling back the amount of cash you can use in a transaction with a business or individual. We've got Tamar Braca, who is one of the tax authorities over there. And Braca says, we want the public to reduce the use of cash money. And the reason they're giving is because they're saying criminals use cash. So we want to limit the use of cash so that the criminals will have a tougher time of prosecuting crime. And if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. These criminals are going to figure it out. Okay, they always have. Money has, currencies have changed, the values have changed, and criminals always have managed to continue their criminal activity and get paid for it. Not that crime pays. And obviously, most criminals at the street level, it catches up with them and you serve time in prison. But if you want to endeavor in crime, you need to get elected to office. Preferably right now, Democratic Party looks real good for you to be able to go into and do things like insider trading, like Nancy Pelosi, and get away with it. So, you know, if you're thinking about criminal activity, becoming an elected official is the way to go. Israel is saying that they're going to go ahead and make this move. You can expect them to take this down a notch, probably in a year or so, and cut these amounts in half again. They're going to ultimately outlaw cash totally from their society. Now, you're probably thinking, well, if they do that, how are the people of Israel going to make their transactions? How are people from the outside going to transact with them? How does this affect Israelis transacting with folk in other countries? Well, they're steering everyone toward electronic transactions, and Israel has already started technical trials for a central bank digital currency. We've talked about the CBDC on this channel many times before and the dangers of it. Now, I know a lot of people believe that this isn't coming. Oh, it's coming, okay? And you better recognize that fact, because if you don't, you're going to come up short and get caught with your pants down. Now, the CBDC, we talked about it when Saul Amrova was nominated for the comptroller of the currency here in America. And she flat out said, listen, with a CBDC, we can control the public to a fare thee well. She even suggested that if you wanted to control inflation, if we had a central bank digital currency where the Fed actually had the money, okay, not your local bank, but the Fed, What they could do to control inflation is simply not allow you to spend or place controls on your spending. So for the next 6 months, you're only allowed to spend $500 a week. Okay. Transactions to your landlord or to your mortgage company, they'll occur automatically. But in terms of disposable spending, only a limit of $500 per week, or maybe it would be based on your income. She laid all of this out. Now, she was not confirmed, but the fact that she was nominated telegraphed the direction in which America and these other countries want to go. Now, a war on cash isn't the only way that Israel is leading the way to an authoritarian future. We talked about the CBDC. They're also implementing digital passports that are linked to your health history. So, for example, if you don't have a certain medication in your body, you decided you were going to be a sovereign individual and make a decision for yourself, and the state said, no, you're not. You're going to either take this medication, or we've linked your medical records to our central bank digital currency, and you will be prohibited from transacting. Think it's a joke? Look at China. They've been doing it for years with their social credit score. And you don't hear a lot about it because the West wants this same type of system. So you don't hear a lot about the abuses, the human rights abuses that China engages in via their social credit system. They can prohibit you from traveling. They can prohibit you from even getting a place to live. They can grind you down to dust economically and otherwise, thanks to that social credit system. And we're implementing the same things here. They're also maintaining a database of biometric data. Now, why is that important? Because, in America, we had this thing, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then why do you care? And then it was funny because we went through this whole phase where the police didn't want you filming them, okay? And they took that to court. The U.S. Supreme Court said, yeah, you have a right to film the police. But when the authorities, the point I'm making is that when the authorities were put under that same rubric and they had the light shined on them, it was no longer, well, if you don't have anything to be concerned about, why are you worried? It was, don't do this. We don't want to be filmed. So the same is occurring here with regard to this biometric data and all of these other facts and figures that they want to keep on you. They're saying that if you don't have, you're not doing anything wrong. If you're going to comply, why should you have anything to worry about? Imagine this. You go to apply for some insurance, health insurance, and all of this biometric data is stored. So maybe you drive 10 miles over the limit routinely, like most people do. Maybe that can be a source of data that feeds into your rate with regard to your insurance, or how, if you're able to get insurance at all. Maybe you go to a bar or lounge once or twice a week, and while you're there, maybe you imbibe a little bit. Well, if you drink too much, they're going to know about it because, again, your transactions are electronic now. They're gradually taking that down to a level at which in 10 years, you won't be able to spend 50 cents without the government knowing about it. Okay. All right. So we'll keep an eye on that. But Israel is moving aggressively toward being able to control their citizenry through their money. We're going to get into what we need to do about this. We need to redefine wealth. And before I get into the next subject, let me just talk about that for a minute. Redefining wealth. Wealth has meant for many decades now, nice fancy car, nice clothing. Wealth has meant basically conspicuous consumerism in many quarters, because the funny thing about wealth is that those who usually look wealthy are not, because what's helping them to look wealthy are liabilities such as fancy car, liabilities such as, my wife was telling me about these purses that women buy that are thousands of dollars. And I'm thinking, here's a rule. If you don't have the equivalent amount of money to put in the purse that you use to purchase the purse, maybe you shouldn't buy that. What we need to do is redefine wealth and kick it into the area of hard assets more and more. Okay. We did the video the other day. Go back and watch it. We did the interview with Yana Pomerantz. And she was talking about how over in Belarus, people have land, and that land is used to produce food. She also talked about a person with some cows and how this person is able to engage in commerce because she uses the milk from the cows to actually sell to her community. Now, I'm not suggesting you go out and take up animal husbandry, but I am suggesting that you look at wealth differently. From the transactional standpoint, us needing to go out and pay bills, yeah, we're going to still need to do that with banks, and we're going to still need to, we might be subject to a central bank digital currency in that, when you look at it from that perspective. But with regard to actually holding wealth, I don't think it's going to be a good idea to have it denominated in dollars, okay, for a variety of reasons, the least of which is the control aspect, but also because a dollar is losing money. We've covered that ad nauseum. Let's get to another subject here that is part and parcel of this whole thing, controlling your money and changing the definition of wealth, changing our mindsets, not to be so susceptible to what we hear from our governments, because our governments have a plan for the world that is very disharmonious. So we've got Nancy Pelosi. She's on her way over to Taiwan. Now, she painted herself into a corner because she said that she was going to go visit Taiwan. And what happened was the Chinese, of course, said, no, that's a bad idea. This is our territory. The U.S. even says it's Chinese territory. Go look at the State Department website. But at the same time, she couldn't now refuse to go because she would look weak. The United States would look weak. So she's on her way over there. What is the point of this? What is the point of antagonizing China? It looks as though America, which is the country that has started 80% of the wars since the end of World War II, is trying to incite a war with China. Now, why would they be trying to do that? Well, one of the reasons is to keep us over here distracted from the fact that our nation is falling apart, quite frankly. Okay, from Zero Hedge, but what is the point of it all? Do American congressmen, National Defense Strategy Commission, sundry think tanks, and top generals all think they can defeat China? Obviously, they can't possibly be that dumb. They just spent 20 years in Afghanistan trying to defeat the Taliban and failed. Even the Pentagon's own war simulations concluded that the entire Pacific Fleet would be destroyed in short order in a war against China. So the risks are clear. What benefits could possibly justify such risk? The important bit to realize here is that the primary target of war against China is not China, but the American people. And this is where we go back to George Orwell's 1984 and these perpetual wars that even in his book, the perpetual war did little to distract critically thinking people from the situation that they were living under, which was abject authoritarianism and abject poverty. I mean, just go read the book or watch the movie. It's a good version. The shiny new world war in the Pacific would be very useful to deflect the attention of the American people from the metastasizing crises at home, direct people's anger at a foreign enemy, and for the same high cost also provided the ideal smokescreen for a radical crackdown on dissent against racist, enemy sympathizers, deplorables, domestic extremists, insurrectionists, and any other variety of thought criminals. Now, these thought criminals are going to be people who question. You saw what happened with this whole 2020 thing with this ailment, okay? You question that, and all of a sudden, you became a pariah, all right? So this is kind of the system that the United States want to set up. Don't question anything, okay? Don't critically think about anything. Just watch the news, consume that content, and let us do the thinking for you. Just the other day, we did the video where we were talking about how they've redefined the term recession. And we showed you how CNBC, or we might have done it on the Facebook page, CNBC came out and said, we won't know we're in a recession until the National Board of Economic Research tells us. It was it was almost as if they were speaking to a bunch of children, okay? Don't believe the hype, guys. Redefine wealth. If you want to redefine something, redefinition is all the rage these days, okay? Let's redefine wealth. And in order to do that, let's look at hard assets and see what place they have in our portfolio. Do 12 cows make sense? Maybe it does for some people, okay? You can eat, okay? You can have nutritious milk, okay? But you can see they're even trying to crack down on things like that by, placing more rules on small agricultural outlets and outfits. All right, soldiers, we will watch the situation. In the meantime, I want you to watch this video. We just did an interview with Yana Pomerantz, who recently traveled through Eastern Europe, including Belarus. She's going to talk to us about the impact of the sanctions. What can we learn about an economy that's being impacted negatively? How can we adjust our lifestyles so that we don't miss a beat? We can learn a thing or two from Yana Pomerantz. So let's watch this video, guys. I'll talk to you soon.